The Sentinel is known to be reliable, fearless, disciplined, consistent, courageous, motivated, and skillful.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
All these qualities start from the mind. Your mind can be your worst enemy or your most powerful weapon.
The world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
Is this the dagger?
Learn how to achieve greatness and tap into the Sentinel mindset.
What's up, everybody? Good morning on this wonderful day. Today we got a very special guest. I mean, this guy is special. I'm so excited right now, Mike. I mean, I don't even know how to push it up.
He's so special, he has more than one name.
He does,
right?
actually. Yeah. Thanks, Miguel. We have today Constable Swift. And can I say your first name?
Dale, yeah.
Okay, Dale.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just we're in a scary world right now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
D Swift.
Yeah, we got Constable Dale Swift here. For those of you who listened to past episodes, Dale was on our show when we had Standing on the Six. Amazing context. And what I thought I reached out to him this week and I said, Dale, would you mind coming down just so we can kind of connect and talk with you and explore this notion of so many people wanting to get into policing, really where their mindset should be. I mean, we obviously got a brand new show, The Sentinel Mindset, with your host, Michael Reventar, and of course myself. Mm-hmm. And but we just wanted to say, what can we do to bring more exposure into this area? Because, look, we see people every single day that come to us, say they want to get into policing. But one thing that we can see right off the get-go is that their mindset's not there. But when we try to help them get there, they're like, oh, what do you guys know? You're not police officers. What do you guys know about policing? Okay, no problem. Let's bring in the actual people that are in the industry, that are doing it, that are making a difference, that are changing communities that you've been doing. That's your intro, bro.
There you go.
Wow.
That's your intro. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we
right,
go on, how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm an outgoing introvert, so like when I'm on.
Yes.
And then when I'm out, you can't find me. So
Okay.
it's just it's that recharge. Because I find, especially when you're working in communities and especially when you're working with youth and everything, you can't really turn off and be like, I'll get back to you when it's good for me. It's you got to get back to them when it's good for them.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Because if you lose that opportunity, especially with someone who's feeling vulnerable or at risk, you won't get it back.
Yeah.
So
It's never timely, right?
No,
Court,
no,
catching a bullet,
no.
anything like that.
So it's I'm very lucky to have a very supportive family. Like my wife and my son are very supportive. Like he's younger, but he understands that sometimes daddy has to be pulled away to do something or to help somebody.
Wow, he knows already. That's amazing.
He knows, right? Like his thing before he goes to school, the one thing I tell him is, what did you do to school today? He's like, be good to people. That's what I tell him every day.
Nice.
Be good to people.
Kindness, man. The power of kindness.
It is. And you know what? And I'm good. There were definitely some rough patches for sure. Some anxiety stuff that kind of came up. But it really helps when you've got supportive people, supportive family, supportive like coworkers and stuff like that, just to really kind of get yourself forward. So, but I'm in a good space. And like I said, as outgoing and everything as I am, I have my moments too. And I really, really believe in strength and vulnerability. And what I mean by that, or strength from vulnerability. And what I mean by that is, if you allow yourself to just be yourself and not always be on, and you're able to articulate that and say that out loud, it's like therapy.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, because think about it. Like if I'm hiding stuff inside, that's not tough. That's not strength. That's me being scared for other people to possibly judge me or to know my inner demons or inner thoughts.
So you're never vulnerable.
Never.
Yeah.
So, but
that's what I think about The Rock. I think about
man,
if there's a guy, I mean, everyone loves him. If there's a guy who's always on.
Man crush. I have the biggest man crush.
But
By the way, just speaking of The Rock, did you hear his new rap song?
No.
Don't.
Yes.
Just don't. Just don't.
Hard listen.
It just got dropped 2 days
Hard
ago. My
listen.
son played it to me saying this is very cringeworthy. And I'm
See,
like,
I know.
He's trying to be like Idris Elba who did Bosie.
No, I know. That's
actually wasn't
that's a
that
sick
bad.
track.
That
though.
was-
That track
yeah.
is sick.
See, we're all squirrels. We got completely off.
That's
topic.
right.
No, I know. But again, if you look at I always think of The Rock, man. I admire this guy because he's always on.
Yeah.
Right.
He's always on. Like
Yeah.
he literally is like precision when he walks off the jet, when he turns to the like. I always think like I think deep down he's got this really high voice at home. You know, he
Yeah.
probably talks like this. And honey, where is the Baba Ganoush dip? You know what I'm saying? That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I just want to see him pull a temper tantrum to see how much damage he would do if he did a temper
Oh,
tantrum.
my goodness.
You know what I mean?
It'd be crazy.
I just couldn't imagine just having the camera in my face all the time.
Yes.
Because
No, I know.
at one point you're like, you're smiling, and after that it just turns like to a screw face. You're
You know
like,
what
Right.
it is, though? But for
Yeah.
you, it's not even a persona. I think why it's so draining is because you're taking care of other people.
100%.
Like, you're truly taking care of a
Yeah.
community. You're trying
Yeah.
to... So the thing is, you have to make sure you take care of yourself. It just brings us to our episode of self-love. Remember,
Yes.
guys?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
That's
yes,
right.
anyways.
That's right. Well, look, man, your job, as we're talking about right now, the job of a police officer is a very difficult job. There's your ups, there's your downs, and there's your grays. And basically, there's a lot of unknowns that you have to navigate through every single day.
Yeah.
And the one thing that we can recognize is that the stuff that you guys have to navigate through is not simple stuff. For the most part, you're dealing with a lot of complex things that require a proper mindset. Okay. Now, for those hearing today, for those of you that are looking at getting into policing, this is a very important episode today. I want you guys to listen, because you're about to hear it straight up from a person who is serving his community on a daily basis. And would you say it's an easy task?
No, it's stressful because you are literally, I can't say responsible, but you have a huge impact and influence on a person's future,
Wow.
their safety, their outlook, their perspective, because we're in a position of influence, right? Like we are in a position of, everyone thinks authority. So then you think, we are in a position of influence. So as much as you have that authority hat, you have that hat to really inspire. You have that hat to, like I said, change perspectives. You have that hat to make someone feel safe. You have that hat to allow people to feel vulnerable. We can influence, based on this uniform, we can influence on so many different levels. And I think people need to know that. We're not the authoritative thing, we're the influence. And how the community reacts to us is how we react to them. And it's gotta come from us first.
Okay.
That's it.
Hey, nice. I mean, I might have said this before. So I used to do a little bit of work out of Camden, New Jersey. It was known as one of the most violent cities in the U.S. Do you remember me saying that
Yes.
a couple of years ago they fired all 100 police? They got down to a police force of 100. Corruption was so rampant, they fired them all in one day.
Yeah.
True story. I read an article recently. How they eventually brought it back is the police started going in the community. And they started knocking on doors. They had barbecues. They just literally they threw sports events. They just started to talk with the people. And as you were saying earlier, the 1 to 3% that were essentially the bad apples in that community, their mentality and why the cops were there before wasn't their only experience with cops now. It accounted for 100% of the interactions with them. So just doing some basic community work, meaning that it started with the cops, that they're paying huge dividends now. That it's not the most multicultural police force yet, and that's kind of like the next thing that they're trying to do. They're trying to get people, young men and women who are from that community, to start going into policing. But the fact, like, there's no way that would have happened before. So that's a huge win.
No, and I would say it's changed a lot since I've gone on too. Like, I'm from Toronto Housing. I'm from Chesterlee.
Yeah. Shout out to Chester.
Yep, the Lee. And
For those of you that don't know where Cheshire Lee is that are listening to this,
it's Vic Park and Finch, just north of Finch on the east side. You can't miss it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just behind the
I think
McDonald's.
Cardi does a shout out to Cheshire Lee on the anthem in his song.
Better.
Oh, really in the Raptors
yeah,
one?
yeah.
Was that the one, the opener?
Yeah.
I missed that. Oh, I would have
it
been
was
like,
such a
it was
wicked,
amazing.
wicked opening.
oh man.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, I find it's interesting too, because you really want your police service to reflect your community, right? And I find that to do that, you're gonna have to have people who have legit lived experiences in that city, who understand the city. Not knocking anyone who's not from Toronto, because I can tell you some incredible cops who are not from Toronto, who are doing amazing stuff in Toronto. And the reason that is because they're invested to get to know the culture of Toronto.
Right.
And each neighborhood is a different culture from another neighborhood. And these officers, despite not really knowing, have allowed themselves to put themselves in that situation to actually learn. Because I know people who are from the city or from Scarborough or Rexdale, like officers, who they don't like to promote that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but that's where you're from.
They're ashamed of
Right.
themselves.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate to say,
Yeah.
and it's more so racialized officers too that just don't want to say that, and it could be because of their lived experience getting onto the service, right? It was almost like a no-no if you said you're from certain places. Say you're from across the street, you know what I mean? Like I'm not from Chesterley, I'm from Morecambe Gate, or what's it called, Shawnee Street or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Just to kind of make it seem as less of
But
an issue.
I would say it's an advantage.
100%.
If I look, I've said this before as well. I grew up in Flemington Park.
Yeah.
I think because of where I grew up for 20 years, I created a very acute street sense. And I mean, it's saved me in many situations. And it's also created opportunities from
100%.
that same element.
Yeah.
So to me, like, you know, yeah, one can say, okay, that is a ghetto and that is this or that, or, you know, at the end of the day, there's a lot of positivity that can come from that. And I think one thing that I guess maybe it's not really a skill, but having street smarts really plays.
That's a skill.
Yeah.
I think it's a skill.
You think
Yeah,
it's
that's
yeah.
a skill.
I think
Yeah.
it is because
100%.
it's you. The reason I say it's a skill too is because you allow yourself to trust your gut, and if you don't have street sense, it's a lot harder for you to do your job.
Right.
It's a lot harder for you to live in that neighborhood. So you have to be able to articulate things, put things in perspective, dissect things, figure out what's going on.
To know when a threat is really a
100%.
threat.
And
I mean,
that's a skill, and that's a
Yeah.
hard skill. That's a survival skill. 100%.
yeah, it helps you navigate.
Navigate
Yeah.
through life.
Yeah,
right?
through the most
And it's,
complex sea out there, which is humanity.
And I think a lot of people who come from those situations are way more adapted to significant change when it happens in our community because they're so used to grinding
Right.
and so used to figuring it out based on their life skills, right? So when people talk about people from Toronto housing and whatever, I think some of the biggest people who did really well during COVID were people from Toronto housing. And the reason I say that is because they are always trying to figure out a way to make it work. Every day is a grind,
Yeah.
Right.
right? So, okay, COVID came, it was like, all right, what we got to do now? This is nothing, it's different, but our mindset has been so set to survival.
Okay.
And so set to making sure I have food for my kids and making sure that I can go to work and how is it going to work? That you're constantly trying to figure out day by day what your day is going to look like. Their resilience, I feel, is a bit higher because they're used to that. Whereas people are used to convenience, and then nothing was convenient. They're like, oh my gosh, what do I do?
Yeah, and they shut down.
And they shut down.
Yeah,
right?
that's
And-
actually very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
You
So
know.
so if street smarts are a skill,
100%.
how does someone wanting to get into policing attain that skill other than going and living in an area that maybe is not that welcoming?
I would say one of the best things to do is look for an officer who is not jaded.
Okay.
Look for an officer who, you want to find an officer who is willing to go into those communities, officer who has gone into communities, has had those experiences in
No,
regards.
I'm sorry. The person that wants to be a police officer,
Yeah.
who wants
Oh.
to get that skill.
Yes. Yeah.
And I mean, because obviously I know what you're saying on the other end, but for the person that literally, because look, I've been in situations. I used to work for homeless shelters way back in the day, and out of the cold. And I remember one day there was a gentleman, a police officer that was working there, and a situation happened with a homeless guy who had mental health issues, and he was approaching the officer, and he was approaching with him, I guess, with aggression. And I remember the officer went right behind me, because he was like freaked out by what's going to happen. Now, for myself, I had zero fear because I also understood a little bit more about more or less their mindset and all that. But I say that because also, again, my thinking, my upbringing, the whole 9 yards. My question is street smarts are something that should have, like, what would you suggest? Like maybe like volunteering, community work, that kind of stuff, and the
I was
environment
actually just thinking
exposure.
about that. I would say volunteer work in areas that need volunteers.
Okay.
Right. So
That's
don't
good.
go like to an affluent, like don't go to
You know, like a Nike sports camp where everyone's
go to a community center,
Right,
and get
right.
to meet the youth workers and the youth outreach workers who have dealings with a lot of these youth from these areas on a daily basis. I find that if you volunteer there or try to get into that, you start to find out the different dynamics of the different neighborhoods and the lived experiences that a lot of these youth have.
Okay.
That's a good thing to do. So volunteer in something that you would not usually feel comfortable doing. it's going to be stressful,
Right.
because you don't know what to expect.
Because it's not comfortable.
Right,
Yeah,
but-
expose yourself to what they have to endure every
Yeah.
day.
But that's how we learn, is when we get uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
We stay stagnant when we don't question things. We don't put ourselves in situations that make us make a decision or for growth, right? So put yourself in that kind of situation where you get to learn about the youth and the city or the neighborhood just by the interaction of a community center, right? Because if you look at it, unfortunately, a lot of these youth come from broken homes. Not all, but some do. And they look to those, youth outreach workers and youth workers as a sibling, parent, guardian, you name it.
Oh, yeah.
So you would learn a lot from that youth worker, which would then make you learn a lot about the kid. And then the kids will approach you and they'll start talking to you. So it's putting yourself in a situation that you're not familiar with if you really want to get those street sense, because those are the neighborhoods that you're going to be dealing with. So why not figure out in those community centers what it's probably going to be like and what their struggles are, but also what their successes are. Because we always talk about these neighborhoods and what their struggles are. But we always forget that so many incredible individuals and so many incredible ideas came from those environments and those
Right.
neighborhoods. But
Yes.
we don't remember that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? We don't care to focus on that. It's
Yeah.
like we have to keep it in the bubble. Like, this
should
is
be
just a bad
celebrated
area.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still hear Jane and Finch, horrible. Jane and Finch is a big ass place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
With, I'd say, 99% of the people who are just hardworking,
Right.
Yeah.
and that 1% that we just don't care for, that we just want out.
Right.
1 to 2% tops, but it still gets a bad rep, right?
Right.
Rexdale, Chester Lee,
Right.
you got, you name it, all these areas that
Yeah.
everyone always hears about. They
Malvern,
just-
yeah.
yeah.
the
they
Region
hear-
Park.
Cataraqui.
and they know nothing about these spots just
Yeah.
based on the fact that everyone said it's a bad area.
Yes.
So, it's
They can't acknowledge that guys like Delano Banton from the Raptors now
No.
grew up in Regent Park.
they'd be
and-
like, no way.
yeah, and his number, the number 45 in his jersey, is the bus chute that basically went.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's just really recognizing that there's other people that are not in your situation, or that there's people in your situation, and just allowing yourself to learn in some way of something different than you were used to.
Okay.
I think that'll help. And then once you're on, just really open up yourself to learning more about the community, because that's who you're serving.
Right.
You can't.
You need to understand.
You got to understand, like, officers who are good officers will help you in regards to the safety aspect, but it's on you to really engage with that community in a different way and learn more,
Okay.
right? So
That's good, man.
I mean, that's a great question, because I think what you were kind of asking, Dale, is like, what's the focus?
Right.
If you ask, I mean, we're in the information age. We have a very evolved sense on what it means to be a cop now. We've seen it highly scrutinized.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
People who had no concept of what policing was now have an opinion on it. They're like, oh, that's wrong, that's right. But if we look at it, before it was really simple. They catch bad guys.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if someone comes in and has that mentality and it's that simple, the simplicity of that means they're going to make a lot of mistakes if they're thinking my job as a cop is just to catch bad guys.
Well, because you're only focusing on 2% of your job.
Exactly.
Right.
2% of the community, of the
Right,
people
and
that are
that's
out there.
it. So it's like, so that's a disservice to the community, obviously, right? Because no community just wants to see officers coming in when they have to investigate or arrest, right? They
Yeah.
don't, right? Because that just keeps giving them the idea that this is just how you see us,
Right.
right? Whereas you could have a youth that just got into Harvard, right? You've got other youth that are trying to initiate mental health programs. You've got youth or community leaders who are really trying to get the bad apples out and are looking for partnerships probably with policing. But you don't know that until you get into those neighborhoods. And people are nervous to go into those neighborhoods because people are going to be like, cuss their teeth, swear at them, cuss at them, whatever. But you know what? It's the one thing you have to remember about being a police officer. It's not who you are, it's what you do. Who you are makes this uniform amazing. But that is the base. You are the base, and this is the outlet. So when people are reacting to you, they're not reacting to you. They don't know you. They don't know you.
Yeah.
They're reacting to this and whatever it means to them.
Yeah.
So if we can get over that fact that it's not a personal thing, and that more it's an experiential thing for them, or even sometimes a generational thing for them, we're good. We walk in, they see us, we're saying hi, we're actually trying to talk. At first, there's going to be resistance. But if you keep doing it on a regular basis and they see you, they're like, oh, he's just talking to the kids, or he's talking to that old guy in the corner, or
The perception can change. That's what you're saying.
It will change.
With better experiences with those same people.
But you have to allow yourself to put yourself in there and notice when you go into those neighborhoods, it's not your neighborhood. You're a guest. You are a guest in this neighborhood, and you have to respect the culture of the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. If you just go in there looking like you want to knock heads and make arrests, that is complete disrespect to that neighborhood, because you are judging them based on that and not the other incredible things that they have to offer. So really becoming a police officer, if you want to be effective, do not take things personal. They don't know you.
Yeah.
That's strong,
really
man.
good.
How long have you been a police officer for right now?
Almost 13 years.
So let's go here right now. 13 years, you are 100% a veteran right now, okay? You've gone past the days of just getting in there. You've seen a lot. Yeah. For those people that are looking at getting into policing, okay, you've seen a lot of people come on. And if you were looking at as a general theme of what they all have in common as a skill or as a quality, that someone listening to this right now says, if I work on this, my chances are going to get a little bit more higher up with the complement of my work. Yeah. My reviews of my performance and all that. What would that skill be?
I know the answer. It's 20/20 vision. Right? Isn't it?
Like, you need that.
How did you get that, Mike?
I would say, honestly, it comes down to like being personable.
Okay.
Hardworking and personable. Because you're going to be interacting with people, and we're really trying to focus on individuals who are personable and feel comfortable in engaging at whatever level. So it's almost having those social skills and the emotional intelligence to know how to act in certain situations. That is huge.
So outgoing, 100% is
not even outgoing, because I've met people who are not outgoing who are fantastic. Communicators.
Okay.
It's not the matter of being outgoing or whatever. It's more so that the ability that they can recognize a situation and what is needed in that situation in regards to their communication, right? It's you can have someone who's very quiet who can recognize something and just say a few words and calms a person down.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
It's recognizing your environment and recognizing the need of that person, and then responding professionally, personally, and empathetically.
Okay.
No matter what the situation is.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't get too amped. Just look, what does this situation need? And I've been in a lot of situations, even by myself, where are very dangerous. And just based on the fact that you can articulate stuff and based on the fact that you can communicate, things are leveled out. So you need to have the communication skill and recognizing and understanding your environment that you're in.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that is huge.
Introvert
or extrovert.
The contrast to that is you're responding to something and you're not being personable. You're being the professional policeman who has a really shiny badge, and you're making them feel the authority of that badge. And right? And then you're not going to get a good outcome because you're not being personable with them.
No, and that's the thing is, in professionalism, from what I've seen, is professionalism, for whatever reason, when I came on, was like you have to stand at attention.
Yeah, it's like stoic.
And just so you have to talk a certain way. And professionalism to me, from what I've seen, from my experiences and other officers who I really respect, is how you are given a certain situation. For example, professionalism is if someone has been attacked, assaulted, whatever, you empathize with them, you get as much information you can, you do a thorough investigation to make them feel comfortable, right? Pass on that investigation information to an investigator, and following up with this person as much as you possibly can, because it gets busy, obviously, right? So it's doing your job and making sure that people feel safe. Or there's also professionalism where you go to an event and you are invited to a community event that they typically don't have police officers in, right? And you go to this event and you choose to do this and sit in the corner.
And what he's doing for those listening, he rested his hands on his vest.
Yeah, sorry. And you stand away.
Yeah.
That is you sending that message that thanks for the invite. I have to be here because I was told, so I'm going to stay in the corner. And if anyone needs me for police stuff, I'll deal with it. Yeah. So when you're invited by communities that typically don't like officers in their community, you literally have to become a part of that community. You have to partake in what it is that they're doing, because here's your opportunity now to really humanize the badge. And I know people use that all the time, but it's to show them that the badge isn't robotic. The badge is also various personalities. The badge is also other lived experience. So you interact on their level because you're a guest. Can you imagine you invited someone to your house for dinner and they chose to eat at a different table?
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean?
True.
Like,
That's
Yeah.
true.
and they think that's the right thing to do. Like, it's not, right? Like, if you go
Yeah.
into a neighborhood, you have to take that on as much as you're comfortable with. I get it. Not everyone is outgoing and whatever, but at least have those conversations. Smile. Do something to showing that you are making an effort to get to know their neighborhood, because they're like, this is your chance. Show me what you got. That is professionalism. So professionalism, to everyone who's listening, is based on how you deal with various circumstances, because each one is going to need a different interaction from the officer. It can't always be the same.
The stuff that you're talking about right now, do you think that's poured enough in training?
Nope.
So I know we've had Steve Somerville on the show, Steve Somerville, expert witness, and he's referenced a lot of times police officers are, they're trained so well in so many areas, but in some areas it's just not there, right? What you're describing right now is like, I think it's a mindset shift to be like, you know what I mean? It's like there's a lot. Obviously, the focus, a lot of it is safety and tactic and strategy and how to deal with situations. But there's also the human element that what you're saying right now resonates, man.
Yeah.
It resonates because to me, I think the humanness of an individual and what he can do. Like, how do you teach that other than displaying it? You know what I mean?
Has to be taught by
Yeah.
example.
It has to be taught by example. Yeah,
It does, and I do understand, especially with our police colleges, like they're teaching you the job. They're teaching
Right.
you the harder stuff, which is the investigative stuff, the things to look for, how you do it properly, how you articulate stuff. That is important. I get that is the focus, 100%. And then from there, for me, I think moving forward, okay, you have those skills. You're going to grow on those skills based on your experience and what you're going to go through the next few years. But then there has to be something that's really showing that, okay, you're here, you know that stuff, you're learning that stuff. Now, this is how you should be engaging with community stuff. And that's typically, from what I've seen, been left to officers who are at the division who are working with that new recruit, right? It's not always the same
Yes.
shared ideology of other officers. But I'm telling you now, if you want to be a good officer, have great relationships with your community, because you're going to look like a superstar. Because someone's going to be wanted, or someone's going to be looking for someone, or someone's going to need some kind of information. And because the community trusts you with their safety and know you are in it for the right reasons, they go here. And then you go, how long you guys been looking for this guy? Oh, here it is. He's right there. They're like, what? How'd you do that? Talking.
Yes.
It's talking.
Yeah.
It makes their lives easier, and it makes investigations so much easier.
We had Phil D on the podcast last week. I'm not sure if you know him. He was part of the undercover unit with TPS.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just for-
that sounds
Yeah.
right.
I'll edit that out.
Okay.
But yeah, just remember. Okay.
That guy.
Anyways, yeah, that guy. And that's what he said, that he had a knack for getting more informants than any other of his peers because he listened.
Yeah.
He took the time to listen, and information they could never unearth was being literally coming to him in a plethora of ways. I
Yes.
always throw that in there.
Yeah.
And it because of listening. And this is as an undercover.
Active listening.
Yeah.
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 And the thing that's really amazing about that too is that I find with this job there's no gray. You're either in it for the community, as you say in your interview, or you're in it for yourself. People are looking for that great pinch or that great arrest or that great whatever to boost themselves up, to get higher. So be it. That's your thing. Cool, right? Or you have the other officers who are like, whatever rank I am or whatever, my whole thing is about impact. So if you tell me I'm working with these communities, I am going to work with this community, and my success comes from that relationship building.
And whatever grows from that seed grows from that seed.
Whatever grows from that seed, I
yeah.
could retire now.
Right.
I'd be happy.
Right.
I'd be like, oh, but you're just a PC. But I'm happy.
Right.
And I know I've had an impact, and I know I've done stuff. And this
Right.
is just 12 and a half years in. I'm like, I know I have.
Right.
Right. And I have the police side has benefited from it, and the community side has benefited from it. And that's when you know you're doing something really, really
Right.
good, right? And you're going to always have people in the service that are really good at certain things. And I think they really need to be praised because they really take on those jobs to do them well for everyone's benefit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's amazing about what you're saying right now? So you're taking the job and you're making the best of the job. In fact, you are actually going around the parameters of the job and adding things in there that makes it even better.
Yeah.
And when we put that into relate it to kind of like what, maybe what a lot of our people do in our organization, you have an opportunity to take this job, this task, this role, this position, and make it the best you can possibly make it. And who knows what opportunities or who knows what will grow from that. Yeah. You're demonstrating that. And the thing is,
you'll save lives.
Yeah, you 100%.
You're going to save lives.
You will.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. I mean, the stuff that you're doing, you're making impacts to communities. Forget about like one or two people. You're doing it as a whole. And that is something very to be proud of, and I commend you for that, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
It takes that example. I mean, look, we know these neighborhoods. Your neighborhood needed a you when you were young. Think of what it.
Oh man!
Did you ever think about that?
Oh yeah, and it's funny because I just had this conversation just yesterday. We did a Zoom call about know your rights with a few of the neighborhoods, just talk about their rights and their responsibilities when they're interacting with officers. And I find like myself being a racialized officer, being from Toronto housing, it's almost like you're trying to pay it forward, right? Because my life could have went so many different ways for so many different reasons. Like I remember our boy Ron Chisner.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ron.
When he did there was a list of things. There were like categories of, if you have more of these categories, there's like a checklist. There's a stronger chance you are going to be in gang life. And I remember, I think I had like 85 to 90% of those characteristics
checked off.
And
wow.
I was like, wow, right?
Yeah, he told us about that. I remember.
And it's a checklist, right? And it's amazing, but it made me emotional because
common denominators.
It was, right?
Yeah.
And it was a lot of things that a lot of officers wouldn't know about because they're not in those neighborhoods, right?
Yeah.
We typically use our computer systems for information in regards to a person or a community. That's like 0.5% of the community, right? But we go on based on what our computers say. So us knowing that, we have to find out the other information in regards to that individual and that community, because we can't depend on.
Interesting.
You can't depend on the.
You need a fuller picture.
100%, because it's not going to say in our reports. It's not going to say, well, there was this great interaction with whatever, blah blah blah, and it's just not happening that way.
Yeah.
Right? Everything we put in there is either investigative, a crime, arrested, whatever. There's so much more going on in these communities.
It's not a true pulse.
No,
That's what you're saying.
And so I'm from those communities, and I see how it's portrayed, and I'm like, being a racialized officer, being a black officer, being from that neighborhood, realistically, if you want to see a difference, you got to be that difference, right? And a lot of people don't realize this, and I've had this conversation with many people. It is harder to join the service, policing, anywhere, as a racialized officer. And I'll tell you why. Predominantly, policing is seen as male white, right? It's not hidden. It's not whatever. Mm-hmm. It's when you close your eyes and you think of an officer, you think typically, usually a white male, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. With a Tom Selleck mustache.
With Tom Selleck mustache, right? And you look through history, that's it. And it's predominantly still, most services are predominantly still male white, right? So in that culture and in that generational stuff, if you're a white male officer going on, mm-hmm. You're not thinking about other things that probably a racialized officer would be thinking about. And what I mean by that is this: black male, Toronto housing. I tell my family I want to go into policing. They're like, why?
Yeah.
Why would you do that, right? So my family, based on culture,
it's not celebrated.
Whatever, it's not celebrated.
Yeah.
My community, they're like, dude, I'll tell you now. You become a cop, we don't talk.
Yeah.
Make sure my phone number is not. Yeah. Make sure my phone number is on your phone.
Yeah, you've chosen the side now.
You've chosen this. You're like, if you want to work for them, we're not buddies.
Yeah.
So you have that. You have your family, you have your culture, you have your community that typically is telling you no, not to. Mm-hmm. And then you get into a service where you don't see a lot of yourself, and it's completely a whole different experience. And now you're also trying to prove yourself to the service. So you're trying to prove yourself to the service, and you're also trying to prove to everyone that you left behind or who are there that you are still the same person, right? There's a lot more pressure on racialized officers coming in than there are for non-racialized officers.
You know, it's funny you're saying that. So my son, my wife, her Jamaican ancestry. I mean, she wasn't born in Jamaica, so let's say that.
Yeah.
My kids are mixed.
That's a proper way to say it.
My kids are mixed.
Yep.
Okay, and you know,
Insane.
I always say to my son, I said, yeah, you know, what do you want to do for a job, right? And he's like, I don't know, and like, I want to be maybe like a police officer, and then at one time he said that around my wife, and she was like, no, I don't want him to be a police officer. I'm like, why? I'm not going to go into the specifics, but very similar to what you're talking about right now, right? It's just that the idea that
the stigma is the pressure, the challenge.
Exactly. So, and that's the thing, man. It's difficult,
but that shows how real it is.
Exactly,
it's a very real thing.
Exactly,
right?
I think in the last couple of years, especially with a lot of stuff that's come out, with like George Floyd and a whole bunch of other things, it's actually created just more of that negative stigma, making it more difficult for the majority of really good police officers to do their jobs, because you're going off against the stigma. And I know the answer to how to fight that is what you're doing. What you're doing right now is the solution. Yeah, that's what makes it better. The hands on the neck and the legs about 5 feet apart. No expression. That is what's actually feeding into that. So the more and more people see stories like yours, though, like how we had Ron and we had people that I went to school with, like Faisal and all these guys. Like this is the stuff that we want to highlight as well, because you guys are making a difference, and more of this has to also be showcased. Because as you said, we're always talking about the bad, but we really want to talk about the good, because the bad is more interesting. The bad is more easy to gravitate towards. Hey, there's a video of a fight going on. Let's watch that, opposed to hearing someone say, I'm making a difference in the community.
Yeah, I'm baking pies and handing them out.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
And people are like, especially when we're in the community, like, that's not policing. I'm like, so what is policing to you? All right? Because you always hear, oh, your community, you're flipping burgers. I don't think I've ever flipped a burger. I'm making relationships in this community.
Yes.
So then when you are investigating something, I can go, here you go.
Yes.
Right? So that is policing, to build community partners. Right. And to build relationships with your neighborhood. Yes. Because to serve and protect. Yes. Who are we serving and protecting?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
right.
So
you need this. Yes. That is policing, because it says to serve and protect.
That's right.
How do you do that if you don't know your neighborhood?
That's right.
How do you do that if you don't engage with your neighborhood?
Yeah,
that's right.
This is great, because you basically, you're showing that there's so much more to policing. It's not just catching bad guys.
No, and I think we do a lot of disservice to people coming on, because that is the lens that they have. So when they go into their neighborhood, go into their interviews, they're thinking, okay, I got to think police, I got to think in investigative, I got to think in enforcement. And that's all parts of being a police officer, but you need that balance.
Yes. Yeah. Right? I'll give you an outside perspective. I used to do a lot of work as a youth worker in all these neighborhoods. I'll compare two youth workers. They were essentially putting on camps and after-school programs for kids. I'm doing a lot of air quotes here for those listening. Youth worker 1 was very methodical, ran a stellar program. It started on the minute, it ended on the minute. They covered everything. Youth worker 2, a little bit more chill in his style, okay? Spent more time not, going through the curriculum, but just connecting with the kids, talking. Youth worker 1 did not like youth worker 2's style. Said, this is not how we run a program, okay? The test was when something bad happened. And whenever something happened to anyone in the community, guess who they reached out to first? Youth worker 2. Okay, youth worker 2 was called when I impregnated a girl, was called when I just got shot at, was called when I just got arrested, was called all these different things. And at any time of day, he would get this call, because he was a part of the community, because he served it. Youth worker 1 just ran a program. Okay, and look, no one knows their heart and how deep it goes, but the effectiveness was the unorthodox way of that time to run a program and say, look, no, it's not about me running a program, it's about me connecting with people. He took a lot of flack for that at the time, because it was not understood within the organization that wanted him to run programs.
It has to be this, and this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tick this off. We have a program. Tick.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that. And it's funny you talk about that, because even recently, our service has been under a lot of heat, or officers have been through a lot of heat, and the people creating the heat or that are involved in the situation reach out to me and say, Swift, this is what's going on, and then I'll have to mediate between certain parties. And there's some really big things that have been that happened, trust me, that I won't get into. Yeah. Whereas if they didn't have that relationship with that officer, it would have been a significantly different outcome for everybody.
Wow.
Right. And so
your life experience is like you qualified as the liaison to make this happen.
Right. And you're getting a phone call from someone who's already been traumatized, and their son has been extremely traumatized, and their first phone call isn't to the lawyer or whoever, it's to me. And this is not me bigging myself
so
up.
look, you're not going into details, but am I right in saying that you stopped something from really exploding?
100%.
Yeah.
And I would say GTA wide.
Yeah.
And it was because of the relationship, and that's all it was. And it was like, whoa, great job. And it's amazing how the community really embraced it. Some aspects of the service was like, great job, but then it just disappears. And I'm just like, but this is why we are successful in the neighborhoods, right? When you talk about professionalism, when you talk about impact, when you talk about being a police officer, you have to look at it and say, well, how is this relationship with the neighborhood? If that neighborhood can speak highly of you, aren't you doing your job? Mm-hmm. If that neighbor is speaking highly of you, is that not professionalism? Mm-hmm. Because you've shown professionalism, empathy, you've shown a personality, you've shown everything. That is professionalism.
Well, let's look at the fruit. I mean, isn't it like dauntingly obvious that when police forces have good relations with that community, that crime is lower?
Crime is lower.
Right?
And you can literally stop things from happening. They go, hey, Swift, just so you know.
Preventative work?
This is what blah, blah, blah. And I go, oh, okay, I'm not working. I'm going to make a phone call to someone who is working. Guys, this is what's going on as a heads up.
Yep.
Check it out. Boom. Things are taken care of. And it's because the community trusts you to keep them safe. So they reach out anytime. Right?
Yeah, that's
amazing. They reach
amazing.
out anytime, right?
Yeah.
So then I listen, and then I reach out to whoever is working. And then it's that whole community partner. I never come in saying I'm an overseer. I am no better than anybody else because I wear this uniform. I don't say I'm here and you're there. You cannot do that, right? We are on the same level. And sometimes I've met people that I think are better than me that I've had to investigate. You know what I mean? Like, this is just, it's what you, I'm serious. And this is like what you do, and you have to really humble yourself.
It's the role that you have within that community.
So let's talk about humility right now, because you just brought up a trait, which is, you just displayed right now humility here. Mm. How important is it in policing to be humble?
Well, I would say the times that you're not, things get significantly worse. If you can say, when you know you've done something wrong, my bad, I was wrong. Like, you investigate someone and you think you got that person and say, for instance, it's not the right person. Don't just tell that person, I was just doing my job. I'm just doing my job, whatever, blah, blah. It's like, you know what? I was doing my job, and my bad. I'm so sorry that we had to put you through this, but we just had to really make sure. It's how you do it, right? Mm-hmm. And you can apologize. That's good, we get things wrong all the time. Mm-hmm. Just say it. We're not perfect. We're human. So obviously we are going to slip up. If our intentions are good, I mean, and that's the thing is, I think most of the time our intentions are good, but it's just, they don't turn out the way we want them to. And that's okay. Just be like, my bad. I made a mistake. You know what? Yeah, I should have did it this way instead. And sometimes the community tells you certain ways you should have did stuff. And it's okay to go, you know what? As much as you don't really understand.
I love that. That's
okay,
awesome.
You know, but you don't understand the situation, but thank you.
Yeah.
Look,
they're
what you're saying right now is so powerful, because right now it's just, you're disarming. You're disarming a response. Yeah. Look, we interviewed a person this week, and I actually referenced this example. This gentleman comes in for his interview 25 minutes late. Okay?
There you go.
And as he comes in, I'm like, hi, how are you? He's like, I'm here for the interview. And I'm waiting. I'm just waiting for him to say, I'm sorry that I was late. Yeah. Okay? And I said, since he wasn't saying that, I said, just wondering what time your interview started. He goes, oh, it was 8:30, but there was just traffic. I'm like, okay, look, thank you very much for your time. Unfortunately, the window's closed, and maybe you could try again in the future. Now, here's the purpose of this. If he has said to me, man, I'm so sorry. I was late. There's no excuse. I apologize for that. If you don't want to interview me, I just wanted to come and tell you this. I'd be disarmed. I'd be like, I have to give this guy another chance. Yeah. But the thing is,
because of the humility.
Because of the humility. But this is so key, what you're saying right now. The power of humility is that it can change a situation completely in your favor. Like, it's a mistake that you made, and now you come across on top just because you took that approach.
Trust trust and respect is gained there, 100%.
Yes.
Right? And you're not always in situations to do that, 100%.
Right.
You're not. Sometimes the situations are dynamic.
Right.
People can be whatever. But you just gotta get your job done.
Right. Of course.
But if there are situations, and there are, where you need to go, you know what, my bad, I'm sorry. That humility, you're right. It goes so far. But we're in a culture, I think, that to admit we were wrong,
it's not cool.
And it's weakness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We always talk
Yeah.
about you can't be weak. You got to be whatever, and you can't. That male, whatever it is from old school, like this tough persona,
Yeah.
doesn't work.
It doesn't.
It hasn't worked. It isn't working.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then when
maybe
you-
in some movies.
Maybe in some movies, and that's great, right? But when you're dealing with the community and you're able to show a bit of humility, they will have your back.
What it is,
Because
is
it
it
empowers
builds
them.
trust. It builds
It
trust.
builds trust, but it also empowers them to go, you know what I was thinking was right. Or he or she actually just listened to me, and I wasn't expecting that, right? Even if they're recording you, because I guarantee you, if you apologize, like, off, like, this is not going to be for 6 months.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
There's no way.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just, it's okay to say my bad.
Right.
That's it. And I've done it with youth, even youth I'm close to. I'm like, man, I'm so sorry. Like, this is what I was doing, this is whatever. As much as I thought it was the right thing, apparently it wasn't, and you got affected by it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Right? You have to do that, right? Because then your circle gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and people literally will protect you when you walk in that neighborhood.
Man, you're just dropping
It's-
diamonds today, man.
But to me, I think it's common sense.
100%.
And that's the thing, and I get in trouble for common sense. Like, it's just
Yeah.
like it baffles my mind still that as much as we as police services say community, we're still very resistant in building, or hesitant to building those relationships. And we have officers who can really, really do that. Just like we have officers who are great drug investigators. You got officers who are great everything, right? But you also have officers who are there, who are willing to go into these neighborhoods, knowing or not knowing what it's going to be like, to build those relationships, to make it easy for everybody, right? Everyone's got their skills.
That's right.
Just recognize what they are, and everyone is happy.
That's right.
Everyone's happy.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good, man. That's so good. I mean, we had another officer on here that you spent some time with us, Lucas L. And he hit the title of his episode is Strength Through Humility. Okay. He's a big boy, but there's a gentle warrior about him, where he treats people so well and with such respect that it's a curveball, because he's a walking cop. He's from Brazil originally, and you would think he'd police in a certain way on the strength of his stature and all these things.
Yeah.
And he comes and he lowers himself
Yeah.
than the other person to build trust and for them to know. And again, he said the same thing, that if you're not right, it's okay. You're not defined by that one mistake. It's okay to say that I made a mistake, and you can trust someone who is not walking on water.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I mean that in the best light, right? Because we're people.
Yeah, and you're just telling them, when you do that, when you walk on water, you're just telling them that they're no good.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh yeah.
And you're here and they're here.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
Absolutely.
It's I'm telling you, just having some kind of personality and just listening to people, it's that is professionalism.
It's funny how you say it, that
That's
like
good.
it seems like so mind blasting, but it is. I mean, common sense is not common, as they say now, but it's just good things. Like Gary Vee had a post not that long ago that said, he goes, I don't know where we doubted that if you did good things for good reasons in a good way, that something bad would happen. What, why? Or sorry, that something good wouldn't happen. Like,
Yeah.
why do we doubt that?
Yeah.
Good will reap good
Right.
at some point. So if you, in a policing way, you do some really good work, you'll have a good, I guess, self-reward from it. And you'll see the fruit of it in that community. And you're not going to be another jaded person who wears the badge. And that's like, I mean, I was talking with one of our floor mates here at the office, who, he was the one who called the cops. And the cop was grilling him. Hands on the vest and just looking him up and down, basically giving him the whole aura of, why the hell are you wasting my time? Okay. And the gentleman here who's on our floor said he didn't even know how to respond. He actually said, like, did you know that I was like the one who called for your help? Okay. Because he doubted it of himself that he had called for the cop's help, because the cop couldn't care less to help him.
And that's
Okay.
unfortunate. And you know what? Once again, it's no secret. We have officers like that. Who knows? That officer could have had a really, really bad day and was just like, what is this that we're going to? Who knows, right? Who knows? That could be an officer with a bad day who's a great cop. But at the same time, like I said at the beginning, forget the whole authoritative thing. We are influencers. So how do we influence that individual? How do we influence that person in that situation? What is the impact we left? What is the message that we left with that person? Just being who we are with a couple of questions, with a couple words, with a couple gestures. How did we leave that person, right? And you're not going to get it right all the time. You're not. Like, you're going to be times where you're just going to be like frustrated or pissed. You're going to be like, man, I don't want to deal with this. Right.
What would you say to the cop or the wannabe cop that says that they want to be, and they're afraid of this culture? They think that there's a culture within policing that their good intention and why they want to be police, it may not be rewarded. They may not have the backing of the blue. They have an idea. You know, what would you say to them that if they're weary that the culture might be counter to what they want to become?
So, out of experience, yeah, there's in any service there's going to be inner turmoil. If you talk, and this is fact, you talk to most cops in regards to what the stresses are on their job, very unlikely they talk about a call, unless it was like a child who passed or something.
Interesting.
Like that. It's not about this call, that call, whatever procedural stuff. It's always internal stuff. It's this person, this supervisor, that. Did you know that this person, whatever? And it becomes toxic. So a lot of the stressors from the job, a lot of cops actually feel comfortable being outside of their division, or not division, outside of their station. Yeah. Just being out there, because sometimes there's this toxicity of negativity that can consume you. Yeah. And it'll make, and it can probably form your outlook in regards to what policing is, right? Because I remember for me, it was very hard when I got on, because I was trying to really navigate between people who were upset, who were like 6 months more on than me, that hated everybody, right? And how I wanted to be and how I wanted to learn. So getting onto the service, you have to recognize that you need to stay away from certain circles. You have to find your people, right? Now, when you're new, you have to go through the grind. There's going to be a lot of things you don't like. There's going to be things that you do that you're not going to like. You got to really build yourself, but realize that while you're doing that, have that balance of something else that makes you feel really good at the end of the day.
Oh, that's right? Good. That's good advice.
You have to separate yourself from work. Yeah. Right? Because that's work. Yeah. It will finish at some point. You will retire at some point. Life, you never retire. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, so you can't let the stress of the job take over your life.
No, like you, and it's hard to do. Don't get me wrong. It is very hard to do, because, like I said, when you're dedicated to certain things, you want to see certain things through, and you can become consumed, negatively or positively, with your work. There's positive stress and negative stress, but you have to have that balance, because these individuals right here is what's giving you the strength to do what you do here. Yeah, you have to have that balance. So have balance. Don't get involved in this he said, she said stuff. Make the decisions of certain people on your own, right? Find people you can trust. And typically the people you can trust are the ones that don't talk about other people. Yeah. Right? Right. Someone's always got to say something about somebody, but that's any job.
Yeah, right? We learned this in high school.
Yeah, right. But it still happens, and I was actually really shocked to see it happening so much in the service, right? For whatever reason. Like, you want to talk about me, you're thinking about me more than I'm thinking about you.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
And Facts. I don't know you, so okay.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like, you know, and it's you have to have that mentality, but you build up to that. Yeah. Right? You find your circle, you figure out who you are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, explore them too, but really keep that circle of good people who are willing to teach you and make you feel comfortable.
You can learn from.
Well, I think it's amazing, man. You definitely are salt and light of the earth, man, and making a difference, like truly, because, I mean, you've been on that long. It's not on you. You're not jaded. I mean, we talk about it a lot. We have such respect for cops because of what they have to endure. Yeah. You know, day in, day out, it's a very, very, very difficult job. If there's internal stress, I can imagine how that compounds. That makes it really tough. And I think, you know, want to encourage you, whatever you're doing in the community, man, I hope, literally for the sake of the reputation of police too, that you're one of those people that gets a platform continually, internally, to help cops with some of this stuff.
Mm,
And you have a chance to kind of speak to them and say, like, look, you don't. There's a better way. There's another way. There's a way to save yourself in the process and not be lost in it.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that too, because when we think of officers, we think of calls, dealing with situations, whatever. Because I'm in the community so much, and I'm not going to as many radio calls. You are so involved with families who are going through so many issues. You have to arrest individuals where you know their families, and it's homicides. There's been 3 so far since I've been in this role.
Wow.
Where you know the families, the individuals, the suspect's parents and family, the victim's parents and family, and you're trying to gauge between both of them to make sure that they're all okay.
Yeah.
And it's a job when you are doing it properly and when you are fully engaged. It's not that you go to, like in policing, where you're going call to call. You can just put your book away and go home.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work that way when you're invested in a community. It's like you're always on, right? And that's why it's very hard. Like I love naps. I'm a nap guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at home. I'm off. I gotta have my nap.
Yeah, same here.
Because I need
I'm
that,
guilty of that. Yeah.
I need that recharge, right? Because as much as this community stuff, you do so much investigating. You're solving so many things, but you're so involved in every aspect.
Yeah.
And I think about my division, and there's very little calls that are serious that I either don't know about or have something about because of my relationships with the community.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something I go, yay. No, it's like, here you go. Like, let's solve this. Let's make sure everyone is good. And that's it. Like, I am here for you just like I'm hoping you are here for me.
That's
right.
good.
And let's show this bond so then the community knows we are here for them and let's get this done. Right. So it's how you take on your role of policing.
Yes.
It can be rewarding. You're not always going to get rewarded by individuals in the service. You're not, right? You're not always going to be recognized when you probably should be, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I know many officers who have done fantastic stuff where people don't even know their names.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to find that intrinsic power and energy to know that you are doing the right thing. You've made that impact just based on a conversation you have with someone in the community or something that kind of gives you that, because you can't
take
always,
life from that.
You have to, because you can't always get it from your service. It's so big, right?
Well, I'll tell you this, man. I want to reward you right now with gratitude. No, hold on. I want to thank you, man. Like, honestly, what you do is very respectable, okay? And you are changing and you are making a difference. And we heard a lot today, man. We heard a lot today that people can apply regards community, humility, and just changing their mindset and how to look at things, okay? For anyone right now listening that wants to maybe reach out, maybe they might have ask Officer Swift a question. How could they find you? Do you advertise on Instagram?
I do, and I probably should do more. Like, and I say this when I usually have like meetings or group meetings or seminars or whatever with youth. I always tell them my Instagram handle or TikTok.
That's cool.
And on Instagram, it's TPSwiftD.
Yep.
It's a public page. You don't have to follow. And I get why youth don't want to follow sometimes because of other people they have in their circle.
Okay.
It gets dangerous.
Oh, I see.
It gets dangerous, right?
Yes.
So I say DM me anytime.
Okay.
With any questions, and it'll be real talk.
Okay.
It won't be, well, it's a... No, it'll be like, what do you need to know? I can tell you about my experience. I can tell you about my lived experience before and now as an officer. I can tell you the strengths or whatever that you have, the things that you need to work on. Like, let's figure this out. And I don't need to know you. If you reach out, first of all, if you take the time to reach out to an officer you don't know, given the fact that you probably have perceived ideas about them, and you are willing to make yourself vulnerable, put yourself out there to ask them questions, I know you are not. I'm going to answer your questions.
Yeah.
I know you are not. I'm going to make you feel comfortable because that's strength from vulnerability.
That's good, man.
I want you to know that based on what you did, you are going to be successful.
Yeah.
Based on you reaching out, I need to reach out. I need to step up.
Yeah.
Period.
You know, there's a need.
Okay.
If
There's
they're
a
reaching
need.
out to you, they need help.
You step up.
Yeah.
No matter what, you step up and you make yourself available because they did.
Yes.
Not thinking that they would before.
Right. Look,
Right?
another thing, another amazing attribute.
Oh,
Look, no, but I'm saying, like, look, just again, not much people do that. Look, thank you so much for coming down. We really, really appreciate it, man. You, as Mike said, salt of the earth, man.
Oh, man.
And you know, I'm actually excited because I think this is just the beginning.
Yep.
That's what I've been thinking.
I was actually having some
I have
ideas.
some ideas. I have some
Oh, you
ideas
have
too.
too?
Yeah, I'm not
okay.
joking.
So we'll share it offline.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
I think that'd be great. But
Yeah.
just of how we can continue this and bringing the awareness, man. Again, you are making a difference, and I really want to thank you for being on the show.
I appreciate it. Thanks to everyone too for having me on the show. This
Yes.
is fantastic. This is number 2.
Yes.
I love how comfortable you guys make me. And these are conversations that need to happen. It's partnerships, I think, that need to happen because
Yes.
people need the real stories and not be scared of certain stories, right? But just these conversations make people think.
Right.
And then it makes them reach out to find out further stuff that kind of help their own ideologies in regards to what they believe, right? So we have to keep this happening for sure. And we have to make sure that we are open and available to people who have questions.
Yeah.
So you got questions?
Amazing.
Let me
I
know.
just want to say to you, dude, that take care of yourself so you've got gas in the tank to
Appreciate
keep giving.
Thank
Because if you dry up, a lot of work will dry up with it. You know,
It's
it
one of those
just
naps are important.
it's
man.
one of those things, right? You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Hey, naps are nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so yeah, just keep take care of yourself and your family and everything, because we benefit when you're working full throttle. These neighborhoods, I know directly how much it impacts, and if someone like you, if your words can save a young man's life, a young lady's life who would have been steered, and you know how fragile it is, that 1 degree down the road can totally alter where they're going to be, the trajectory of their life. I can see a lot of people following in your footsteps, you know, and if it's not even as policing, just the heart that you have towards the way you talk about this community is the way people who live in that community should talk about their community.
Yes.
Yeah.
I say that
100%.
to anyone listening, the way, you know, think of Dale's words. Do you talk about your own community where you live like that? Or
Mhm.
is it just, man, those kids, they look at they're stepping on my grass.
Mm.
Okay, like if you suffer from that, there's so much more to life
Yeah.
if you actually will open your heart.
There you go.
Okay.
And let the sun shine in.
That's it. Be kind to people, everybody, and be kind to yourself and allow yourself to grow through experience. That's it.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dale Swift.
All right.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.